everybody, welcome back to The Wise Entrepreneur. I am super excited to make this video, especially during this time when the whole world is dealing with this pandemic and we're just going through a lot of the feeling like some people just have a lot of uncertainty because the whole world is dealing with it. It feels like there's no place to escape it. There's really just you having to deal with this, and people feel unsure. Some people feel like it's the end of the world, and it is somewhat the end of the world as we may have known it before, and it's something to not only feel scared of, but something to get excited about. I think that a lot of the scaredness comes from the media and what is being put out of, death and things like that. But we have to always remember that with death comes a birth, and this birth could be your rebirth. It could be a new person that you're making while you're in quarantine. I think that this time is very essential, and even though it was forced upon us and we didn't have those, idea ourselves to put ourselves in quarantine, I think that we should still use this time. Now for me, it's like I've always been in quarantine for the last 3 years. I've been pretty much always at home, working on myself, working on the things that I can be creative in, working on business, working on, these things. So I never was overly out and about ever. I didn't really get into that energy so much for these last 3 years, just because I've been going through my own evolution and things like that. But I know a lot of people who've never been in a quarantine that only use their home as, a place to sleep, and, they're up in the morning, they're out, they're doing their thing, they're hanging out with friends, they're continuously, not having time with themselves and giving themselves that solitude that they really craved. And I feel as though that with this energy, if we're going to look at it from not only a bad spectrum, but what good we can take out of it, I think that we can take a lot from the fact that we now have time for ourselves. The world has now slowed down. The pollution has gone down. The way that we were moving has now slowed down, and the earth can somewhat finally breathe and kind of regenerate itself without us putting so much of our energy out there and kind of disrupting things. So I think that it's good that we look at things from both sides and find ourselves in the middle. And even if we have to be indoors and we have to, work from home or do all of these things, for the people who this is, like I said, if this is normal for you, then fine, continue to thrive. But for the people who this is not normal for, and you just don't know what to do, and you found yourself for the last week, binge watching Netflix and eating really bad and doing all this unnecessary stuff, I think that this week, coming into this new week and coming into April, I think that it's time we take our control during this pandemic, that we actually use this time to better ourselves and come up with new ways on how we want to, approach this world and approach this reality, because there will be a time when we are going back into the world and we are going to have to face other people and interact. And what's the story you want to tell from your quarantine? What's the story that you're going to put out now? What is the business that you're gonna be promoting now when you come out? And that's the really important thing to realize. I think we learned this with stocks, is that when people are panicking, others are the higher ups, the people with the most knowledge and wisdom, they are strategically planning, they're investing their time, they're putting money, energy, whatever it is, into what everybody else is panicking about. And I think that is a very huge lesson to learn from the past, is that how are we going to come out on top of this? This is crazy. People are losing their jobs. People who were high up are now, being forced back down. So now everybody's position is, willing to change. It's a musical chairs, if you will. And you want to know when the music stops, when this whole thing stops and you have to go and take your seat, that you're sitting at a good seat, that you're sitting at the head of the table, that you're not the one that, hits the floor because somebody bumped you out of your seat and they took your seat because they were well strategically planned and you weren't. So I think it's important that we look at that time, this time, for a time to plan. And I know that a lot of people are really realizing a lot. I know for me, I've just been hitting realization after realization after realization, and then having even to separate myself from things that I thought that, or people that I thought that I was, building connections with and strong with, and I had to take myself away from those situations because I see even more clearly now. I think our vision is still in that 2020, and we're actually seeing more, and that's what's actually even forced us into this pandemic, so I believe. So I believe that it's very important that we, continue to be creative. And also another thing that I think that just because you're in the house doesn't give you an excuse to be lazy with your look, with what you do, with how you eat, with how you take care of your body, with how you work out, with the ideas that you have. I will advise, I do go outside, I do go for walks and connect with nature. I'm very observant of the sky. So if I see that they have just sprayed like a bunch of chemtrails in the sky, I'm not gonna necessarily go outside and take in that energy and take in that whatever is in the sky. So I think it's very mindful to not be out there when those things are happening, because those are all connected. I'm sure you guys all seen videos on 5G, chemtrails, and all those things that are contributing to this virus. But again, just continue to be smart and take care of yourself, and know that when you are home, still put yourself together, still stay on a schedule, continue to create. I think being creative is the most important thing. Pick up a paintbrush, make something with your hands, use the creativity, explore your mind, write, do photo shoots, do your makeup, whatever it is that you want to do. I think it's important that you should start doing it now while you have the time, especially those of us who have children. I think with children, it's important that you actually start to pay attention to your kids. I know a lot of people use school as somewhat of a daycare for their children, and instead of just handing your kid the iPad or the laptop or just putting on some television show and having them sit there and watch it, actually give them some activities, be creative, become the teacher. And I think it would be fun. I know when I was younger, I was a camp counselor, and we would do all these activities with children, and really it brought the child out of me. And I was still a teenager at that time, but it made me connect back with my younger self. And I think that during this time, it's important that you even do that you tap back into your creativity. I know I was in Walmart yesterday in the arts and crafts aisle, and a lot of people have been taking note to that, and some people haven't, because some things were taken. But I think really creating your own school, your own work, just kind of creating your own thing is really where it's at. And those are the people that's going to come out on top of this thing, because you got to remember, life goes on. Life does not stop at a crisis. You have to go through the crisis. There's the pre-crisis, there's the crisis, and then there's the post-crisis. So you have to go through these three phases, and life will continue to go on. So where are you going to place yourself after? If you're going to be the person who's sitting there panicking, feeling as though that you don't have a direction, that you are just worried about what's going to happen next, then you're not really setting yourself up for the future. And if I suggest that you become the person that is really like, okay, this is the situation, how is this in my advantage? What I can do right now that's going to make me come out on top at the end of this. And I think that's the most important things as wise entrepreneurs that we think about and that we continue to thrive towards, because there's nothing in this world but distraction. And now that the distractions are very minimal, that they're mostly on YouTube, on social media, or the television, but there's no entertainment, there's no going to the bars, there's no hanging out with all your friends and playing games with them and stuff like that. It's really time for self. Everybody's going into hermit mode, and which is the best mode for me, because this is when I really think and I grow from this. And then when it's time to come back into the light, and it's time to come back into the world and share the things that you've learned, you actually have something. You actually have some value there, where then people can now come to you, and now you've created another person out of this. And that's the importance. And I think that it's interesting that it's following the time of Easter, which, if you know the biblical story of Easter, it's about a death and a rebirth. And I may not be the most religious person at all. I'm definitely not a religious person, but I do follow the stories because I believe that there's a lot of substance in these parables. And I think that it's important that we realize that this is astrologically the new year. This is a new year this is a real new year. I consider this the real new year. And we're into the spring equinox. This is a lot of new energy right now coming in, and this is the birth of something. And with birth, there's pain. So this may seem painful, but there's something so beautiful that's going to come out of it, and you're going to forget about that pain. You're going to forget about what you had to go through to get here. So just keep your eyes on the prize. Continue to stay focused on what you want to create. Be creative. Give yourself a routine. Maybe you're not working right now, but you're so used to working, and maybe it's not a time to say, I'm going to be lazy. Maybe it's a time to say, I'm going to put together my own schedule and run on my own time and do my own thing and really work for myself, create a job for myself within my own limits. And I feel as though that is an important energy to take on, and something that will really help us moving forward. Because again, life goes on. No matter what happens, life will continue to go on. So you cannot forget about that. You cannot forget about the importance of continuing to stay the course, never giving up, believing in yourself, and knowing that everything that you come across, every challenge that you're faced with, you are victorious. You can become victorious. It would not be in your path if you could not get over it. And that's the most beautiful thing about our lives, is because everything that we face, every challenge that we come across, is ours for the taking. So I hope that this brings you guys very positive vibes, that it gives you the motivation and encouragement to continue to move towards your goals, continue to move towards the life that you want, continue with your entrepreneurship. Do not stop. Do not give up on yourself, on your ideas, on your team, on just the things that you truly believe about yourself. This is a time to look into self, feel self, and create with that. Allow the voices, the intuition, the encouragement that you're getting from within to come out, and listen to yourself. This is a great time for that. So I hope this video was of some value to you guys. If you like it, please like it. I love when you guys share your comments. I feel like it's a beautiful thing when I see people comment, and that we just get to connect, especially during these times when we don't have that physical connection, when it's all online. And I see people subscribing, and although it's an intimate group that I have here, it's very beautiful because I started at nothing. So to have something is always something I'm grateful for, and I just love it. So comment, share, subscribe if you feel the need, and I hope that you guys use this energy to better yourselves and really go after what it is that you want. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.